Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Aquarium Online Academy. My name is James. I work here at the Aquarium of the Pacific, and we're about ready to go diving deep into the ocean. But I'm not really underwater. We're in our studio here. I have my friend Soraya here, and Bree are in the studio to help us out because today's topic is not just about the deep ocean and these fun characters. It's Ask a Scientist Day. So get your thumbs warmed up because you can text us questions in the studio. We're right here waiting for your cool questions about the deep ocean, ocean exploration, or maybe you have some other questions we can answer for you. 562-286-1838, number down here. Have an adult help you if you are one of our young viewers today. If you have a big question or you watch our program after we're live here Thursday morning, we have an email down here too, live@lbaop.org. So let's start thinking about the deep ocean. Now, this is one of our biggest exhibits here. This exhibit is 142,000 gallons. It's our blue cavern exhibit. But it seems pretty bright to be talking about the deep ocean, don't you think? Well, guess what? This exhibit is 27 feet deep. That's pretty deep for a space here in our building. Now, the actual blue cavern that's out in the ocean on Catalina Island can get over 100 feet deep. So it can be a pretty deep space, but this is what we would experience about 30 feet down into the water, which if you're a diver, you might already know this. If you don't know a lot about diving, the cool thing about this depth is that at 30-ish feet, a little over 30 feet, which is a little bit deeper than this, we get enough pressure on ourselves that it's about 1 atmosphere of pressure. So if I'm standing at the beach right at sea level, I have an Earth atmosphere pushing on me. That's a lot of distance to just, have that count as 1 atmosphere when compared to the water. It's only 30, 33 feet. It gets to a whole nother push of atmosphere on a person. So even though our divers get in here every day to interact with our public out on the dry side of the exhibit, they still have to worry about going into the depths of the water because that much water can be a lot of pressure on them. So let's think about exploring the deep ocean while you warm up some of your question skills. What are some of the challenges that you might think of for exploring the deep ocean? We talked about how divers have to watch their depth because they can get something called nitrogen narcosis, which is a fancy term for the common term called the bends, where you get gas bubbles in your joints. It's very painful. So humans have challenges just getting 30 feet down in the water if you don't do it right. But what are the other challenges? What else happens to animals down there? What are the things that the animals have done to survive in the deep ocean? Bree said it's dark. Good job, Bree. It is very dark down there. Let's take a look at what a space down in the deep ocean might look like. We have some fun videos from explorers, like this is the Hercules ROV, remote operated vehicle, that works with the vessel, the EV Nautilus. And the Nautilus is a NOAA organization vessel. They go exploring the deep ocean. But if you look, if they didn't have their headlights on, it kind of looked just like this. Dark and scary. It's not really that scary. I mean, we're kind of scared of it because it's dark, but what do the animals do to survive in such a dark space? They don't have flashlights, I'm sorry. They're not like looking around. They don't have their cell phone to turn their cell phone light on. No. So what happens is when we as explorers go down there, we might find animals we don't expect. They're just hanging out. Like this time. What's going on here? Did you see that movement? What's happening? Well, let's keep watching. Oh, I saw something. Oh, wow. Check this out. This was a few years ago that Nautilus was doing this, dive down with the Hercules remote operated vehicle, the ROV, and they came across, just by chance, they even just bumped into the sub, this big friend right here. Whoa. Do you recognize this animal? This is a really cool animal. This is a sperm whale. One, to just meet him at the surface of the ocean is kind of rare and cool. We don't get to see them too often. But to find one in the depths, exploring the camera and the submarine, that's pretty cool. Now, this encounter lasted a few minutes in total. They edited the video down a little bit on their website, and you can go to their website, nautiluslive.org. They're a NOAA group that go out and explore. There's the like forehead of a sperm whale. They are the goofiest looking whales, I think. I love them. They are cool. They are very goofy looking. I call them ocean hot dogs because they're just like a long cylinder. And they have this really cool ability to search in the depth. Now, lots of toothed whales do this, where they use sonar, their own living sonar, to explore. Do you know what that's called? Echolocation. Yeah, echolocation is how toothed whales find their prey, but also how they explore their space, because they can use sound waves that come out of their forehead, bounce off an object, and come back to their jaws to help map the space around them. That's a really, really special ability. So if you're an animal that lives in the deep, dark ocean, or if you hunt in the deep, dark ocean, this is a really special ability to find animals that live down there that you might be able to eat. Now, sperm whales have such powerful echolocation skills, the clicks and noises that they can make. It can actually warm up the water. That's pretty cool. Just like a microwave uses a special kind of wave to warm up our food, the sound waves that they create can warm up the water. It's not just for finding stuff, but it's just so powerful, it can do that. Ooh, now another cool animal that lives in the ocean that uses other abilities to find stuff when it's dark is an anglerfish. Now I'm going to send Soraya on a scavenger hunt to find a picture of an anglerfish. There's a lot of species of anglerfish, actually. And we had a really cool question from Lincoln asking, how many teeth do anglerfish have? And you know, I don't know the exact number because each species is a little bit different. And sometimes they have these really long, sharp, pointy teeth that there's not very many of, but they have these really long, pointy teeth. Other anglerfish, they have really short teeth. It just depends on the species. But they can have, I would say, on the pictures I've seen, at least a dozen or 2 dozen teeth. Because what they're going to be doing with those teeth is just grabbing and swallowing. They're not going to sit and tear. They're not going to chew. They're not going to do that. All they need to do is grab their food, and their mouth is so big, they're just going to swallow it whole. No. I love the picture because it just like looks a little like, ah! But check it out. Do we see really, really big teeth in this mouth? No. You may have seen other anglerfish that have like these giant fang-like teeth. And that's a real anglerfish. But so is this. This red angler has very short teeth. Because sometimes they don't need big teeth to do anything. They just vacuum their food in. They do this ambush motion where they suddenly open their mouth real wide and they suck in all this water that can go right out their gills. But the plan is to vacuum in their food as fast as possible so it can't scurry away. And they don't really need teeth for that. So sometimes they either have such short teeth, oh, you can see these little nubs and bumps on their mouth. Other times they almost have no teeth because they don't need them. Now, we also think that in some cases, like the little anglerfish are only like this big. Now, some average about this much. But there's other deep sea anglers that get very big. One that actually lives here in California is called a football fish. And it can get about this long. There's another one that gets about 3-ish feet long. That's like on the big, big scale. So they average a little bit smaller. But there's some really big anglerfish out there. And it would seem extremely scary if they had these giant fangs coming at you and they're 3 feet long. But we don't live in their space, do we? These animals live way down at the bottom. We don't need to be scared of them. And we're not what they like. They want to eat things that are small that they can vacuum in. Now, do you know what the special power an anglerfish has? It's not just that they have this little thing on their forehead, a lure, to attract food, like, ooh, this is a worm, not my face. It's not just going to do that. They do have that. It's actually kind of hidden on this one. It's right here. It is a lure to try and look like a worm or a fish or something else. But the other thing they can do is glow in the dark. that is one of my favorite adaptations. Of all the ones on the planet, I think that's really cool. So when they do this, it's a special glowing color, right? Now, most of the glow is a color between blue and green. There's a few animals that have some red glowing abilities, but most of the ones we're going to see in the deepest parts of the ocean are blue and green. Now, here's a flower hat jelly. This one's really fun. This we're actually using a special light source on to make it look like this. When you see it in like regular daylight colors, it's like almost looks like a moon jelly, where it's just kind of off-white and like a little bit of red and yellow. But under a black light, it makes all these special colors. Now, this is another organism that does this too. So there's a lot of things in the ocean that glow, not just anglers. And if you've never had a chance to see the glow effect in real life, well, guess what? We have a video where we took these little tiny plankton that are called ostracods, and they glow in the dark. This is what one looks like when you zoom in on it. But when you see them in person, they're about the size of a little tiny seed, like a sesame seed size. And what they can do is they mix chemicals in their body that cause light to happen. And that's natural. It's kind of like if you live in a part of the country or the world where you might see glow bugs or lightning bugs. They mix a little chemical in their body to create light. And they do it very frequently, and they use up that material, so they have to make more of it. And that happens inside their body. But we take some dried versions of them, we can grind them up, and we can make them glow. Now, we're going to show you what that looks like. We recorded this a little while ago. We have them, see these little dots in the bowl? That's them. Now, don't worry, the video's still playing. I just turned out the lights. When the lights are down like this, I'm grinding up the little ostracods, and then we add some water back to it, and look what happened. We let out all of the fun glowing chemicals. Now, just to help mix it around, I stirred it around like this. So you can see all the little like streaks right there. That's the stuff that they mix in their body to make it glow. So let's watch it one more time because it's kind of fun. And the reaction happens so quick, and it's over pretty quick too. It usually doesn't last more than about 30 seconds, maybe a minute if you're lucky. And see, there we just added the water back to it to make it do this. Now, the reason we added water is because this reaction, these two chemicals mixed together, has to happen in water in order to work. So that's the cool part about the chemistry of this too, is that it needs some water in order to work. Handy that they live in the ocean. Well, living things all have water in their body, so that helps. Like the lightning bugs can do it because there's water in their body, just like we have water in our body. We need water to live. So that's the cool part about how things glow, is they actually are creating a couple of chemicals to do this. Now, we copied this effect with glow sticks, or you take them up, and then they can glow fun colors. We figured out different chemicals create different colors. And then there's this superhero of the ocean. This fun little shrimp not only creates the chemicals, but it like spits them out at things. I don't know about you, but if I lived in the deep ocean, I didn't expect to see glowing anything, and then you just like launched a glowing cloud at me, I would not hang out. Maybe you would, but this is kind of fun, is that it can spit out this glowing fluid at predators to kind of scare them away or to kind of confuse them so it can get away. So glowing is sometimes for attracting things, sometimes it's for distracting things, but the other things that it can be used for is talking. That's pretty cool. There's other fish that have parts of their body that glow. There's actually one called a flashlight fish that has this little like kidney bean shaped organ right here that they can like close and open a little flap on. And it's kind of like using a fish version of Morse code, where the flashing is a signal to the other fish. They get to talk to each other with it. That's a really, really cool adaptation. That's why bioluminescence is one of my favorite adaptations, because of all the different things it can be used for. All right, we had another question come into the studio. What other colors can the animals do? If people can make other colors, because like we can mix different things. So most of the animals, remember we said, are like bluish to green in the ocean. The lightning bugs make like a greenish yellow color. There's some jellies that can actually glow a little bit of a yellow to red color. But we don't usually see the jellies glowing because it's either very faint or it's a way that we can't really visualize it. Our brains can't actually see the color. So some things glow, well, like most of the stuff we would see would be like this, kind of blue. But there's some animals that actually glow a little bit more red. And the really very funny thing about people is that we actually glow in the dark too. I, you don't believe that? Well, we can't see it as a problem. So if we stand out in the sun, we absorb a whole bunch of sunlight, and you go sit in the dark, and you're going to be like, James was lying to me. Our eyes can't actually see it. It's so faint that we can't see it, but other animals actually can. Now, there's other animals that do this in a way that we can see. There's a shark that lives here in California called a swell shark, and the swell sharks do glow in enough way that we can see them. So they will absorb a little bit of sunlight during the day, and at night, until all the energy is kind of dissipated off of them, they have a very faint little yellow color to them, kind of like a glow-in-the-dark sticker. And they glow too, but it's not like we're creating glowing in our skin. We just absorb some light energy and we're giving it back. It's going off of us. So that's what happens when some animals glow, is that they're not making any chemicals in their body. They're just like a glow-in-the-dark sticker. How many of you thought we were going to be like glow-in-the-dark stickers today? Well, I did. I had that idea in mind already. Bree was a little surprised at that fact. It's one of my favorite facts, is that we actually glow. Seems weird, but it's true. All right. Now, some animals don't have a whole lot of flash or color or lures or anything to their body in the deep ocean. So how do you think this fish is going to survive in a space that is kind of empty and kind of dark? If it's not glowing, if it's not using lures to attract its prey, how does this interesting animal survive? Well, when you look at all the stuff that lives down there, we don't see tons of colors. Sometimes we can see fun colors, but usually there's not a lot of color down there because there's no light. The ways that our eyes can see color, like this green screen that's behind me that I'm actually teaching in front of, I'm not in the deep ocean. The way that I can see this green color is a whole bunch of light hit the screen, and the green comes back to my eye, and I can see that. So if the things don't have light to see anything from, it's kind of going to not have a lot of color down there. Now, there's some animals that have a whole bunch of color. Like there's some deep sea squid and octopus that can have a whole bunch of color. But one of the cool things is that a lot of animals that have this deep sea coloring might be kind of a reddish purple, because this is their camouflage. It doesn't seem like it's camouflage right now because we can see it, but that's because the lights are on. Now this fun little, I think this is a bobtail squid. This fun little animal, if it's dark colored and it's very dark in the ocean, it's like being an ocean camouflage animal where they are so dark you can't see them at all. Things that are kind of dark red, almost like, actually, this red, they are almost black in color in the deep ocean because there's no way to see the red down there. There's so much water above these animals. It has absorbed so much light. All the other colors go away, and mostly all we can see is like blue and green at this point in the really deep ocean. So when we think about blue cavern, the real blue cavern, at about 100 feet deep, you can still see a decent amount of stuff. But the silly thing to think about is that at about 600 feet, which isn't too deep in the ocean comparatively, at about 600 feet, this animal would be almost invisible because almost all the light has been absorbed by the water. So when we think about that, this top level is called the sunlight euphotic zone. Some people just call it the photic zone. And at about 200 meters, which is about 600-ish feet, we get some medium levels of light. Most of the light is already gone, though. It's called the twilight or dysphotic zone. So then twilight zone, not the TV show, in the twilight zone, there's a lot of animals that live that don't have a whole lot of bright color, but have some other abilities to find their prey because their prey likes to live deep in the water. This is actually a zone that most of the big ocean mammals hunt in, not just the swordfish, not just the hatchetfish, because there's a lot of little tiny animal-like plankton that can be down here. And they move up and down, so they might swim up to get their food when it's daytime and come back down. There's a lot of motion happening here. At 1,000 meters, which is like 3,300 feet almost, at 1,000 meters and more, It's like 99.5% of all light has been absorbed, and it's just dark. And that's why it's called the aphotic or midnight zone. Sunlight really cannot get to that point. Now, you can do a fun little experiment on your own with some flashlights. Now, it'll need darkness, so you might have to do it late at night or close all your blinds. But if you had some flashlights at home, or even your cell phone light, or on like a tablet, and you put it somewhere where it stays there, you can shine the light out, you can measure how far you can see an object away from the light source. And the more powerful the light source, the farther you can see. There's actually some funny commercials about how powerful some flashlights can be. So the more light coming through, the farther it can go. Now, our sun is a very powerful light source, but at this level of water, anything past about 3,000 feet, doesn't matter that the sun is as powerful as it is, the light gets stopped before it gets down here. It bumps into too many other water molecules, and it can't go any farther. So it's just dark down here. We get the anglerfish, the giant squid, something called a tripod fish. There's also tons of silly-looking little animals in the bottom of the ocean because it's not easy living down here. There's not a lot to it. It's not like a forest. It's not like a coral reef. It's this. It's a challenging space to live in. Let's go check out some more deep ocean animals. Ooh. I love the look of this one because it just looks like, that's amazing. When really these are like telescope looking eyes, so they can try and gather a whole lot of light and see something in very specific accuracy. But then there's animals like this. This is actually a very small animal. These are not to scale in any way. This is actually a very small little shrimp that's almost completely clear and see-through. What better camouflage than no color at all? Nothing. You're like glass. How many of you ever bumped into a window or a door accidentally because it was too clean? We've all been there. It's fine. This fun little friend you might recognize from the TV show SpongeBob, which was actually created by a marine scientist, a marine biologist, so that's also cool. This little fun friend is called a copepod, and these are their antennae. And a lot of copepods don't have a whole lot of color to them. Some might have a little streak right here, but a lot of them, there's no color because they don't need color. They only get about that big. And it's also nice to not be seen because that's your camouflage. Now, remember what we said about the color red in the deep ocean? This fun squid has a color red, which does what? Makes it invisible. That's right. At night, in the dark, this color makes it look like blackness. Just can't even see it. So there's a lot of cool. That's actually a picture of that tripod fish from the other graphic. There's a lot of cool animals down there that have very fun teeth, or no color, or tentacles, or giant eyeballs so they can see things, or telescopic looking eyeballs. There's another fish. My microphone keeps moving. There's another fish that is hardly ever photographed. We don't have a picture of it, but I challenge you explorers to go find it. There's a bunch of pictures from, I think, National Geographic of this fish, but there's very few that exist because we just never see them, and we don't even have one. It's called a barrel eye fish. And the funny thing about the barrel eye fish is that when you see a picture of them, it looks like they have these giant green eyes right here. Those aren't their eyes. Those are actually something else entirely. It's part of their brain. Their forehead is actually see-through and clear, and their eyes are a little bit farther forward and only point up. Well, if you live about 1,000 feet down, there's just darkness down here, nothing to really look at. Everything else is up top. So their eyes are adapted to just stare up so they can find their food. Now, we had a cool question from Leo about how can people study something so deep in the water? Well, remember the first question we asked about what are the challenges these animals have to be down here? Pressure, darkness. There's a lot of challenges, but the best way that we've found so far is something like this. Now, this looks tiny. I've actually stood next to this submarine. This is not the same one, but these are the size of them. This is a deep ocean exploration vessel. This one's called Harbor Branch, or at least I hope that's the name of it, instead of not the company. But this group, what they're using is this very special glass sphere that is very powerful. It is not going to get broken very easily. Inside of all of this equipment to go down there. And that's what we used to do. People used to use machines. They would sit in a submarine and go explore to the very depth of the ocean. It was in, I think, the late 60s, early 70s that a couple of French explorers were the first ones to get down to the bottom of the Mariana Trench in a very interesting looking submarine. And they actually used gasoline in a case like a balloon. So it was a gasoline balloon, which seems very dangerous, and it is, but this changed how they could dive and surface to such a great depth. They didn't have the technology to do it any other way. And now we have machines that can do it differently. They can help us dive really deep, like this. Or we can use robots. Yeah, this is Sebastian. It's a submarine. Sebastian is on the Okeanos, and Sebastian is about the same size as the Hercules. And this is like an 8-foot tall robot. And they have these special robot arms, and they have all the different ways to drive. And the cool thing about these remote operated vehicles, the giant robots, is that there's a driver that's controlling where it goes. It's not like this, but there's a driver controlling where it goes. And then there's a person that controls the arms. That's actually a fun experiment if you wanted to try that ever. It's like somebody can be the person that walks around. Another person is the arm controller. And this is what Control Center looks like. So you have an arm operator to do the collections, to grab samples, to find all the things. So here's them collecting some deep sea coral samples. And then you have a driver that controls the robot. And you also have other people in the room, like the lead researcher to help talk about what we're going to be doing, where they're going to be going. Or if it's like, ooh, go back. We need to go back over there. Yeah, get a picture of that. Like, there's a lot of that teamwork that's involved in exploration. And they're all sitting on a ship that's at the surface of the water, and the robot goes down. And I think the deepest Sebastian and Hercules can go is about 14,000 feet, I think, which is very deep for the ocean. It's not a lot for us. 14,000 feet is not even 3 miles. I think that doesn't seem very far. Remember, the ocean is very powerful. So much water pushing on you is going to cause a lot of damage if you don't have the right vehicle. So we need vehicles to do it. I like to think of ocean exploration like space exploration. We can get only so far with our bodies without any equipment. And after that, we have to use special equipment to explore. You need special training. You need to be able to use robots sometimes to do it, or take other vehicles down to go to these depths. And while we think of submarines as like they all can do the same thing, these are very specialized ones. There's no like airspace in here for people to be. There's no people in here. But in the ones that carry people, the research vessels, they're not very big. Compared to like a naval submarine. And those don't go very deep anyways. The naval submarines go nowhere near as deep as these do, because they're designed for staying near the surface, but not very, very deep. Whereas these are designed to go to the depths of the ocean, the extreme depths of the ocean, to find stuff down there. So they use a lot of the same technology, but they're not built for the same purpose. You can actually see the collection tubes right here. And because it's not like you like picking up a pinch of something, the control arm actually just picks up this giant tube and just like gets a cylinder of dirt, and then they put it in a bucket. Or they have these giant crane arms, much bigger than my hand, to very delicately grab a little tiny thing and pick it up. So if you ever want to be an ocean explorer that does the depths, you don't have to be the biologist. You don't have to be the scientist on there. You can be the engineer that builds this stuff. Or you could be the robot pilot. That's actually a very cool job title. The robot pilot that drives these things to the bottom of the ocean. Or maybe you love just being on a ship, on a boat. And what you do is you are part of the ship's crew. Either the captain, the first mate, or the people that command the ship and control and manage the vessel. All these scientists rely on. So there's so many ways that you can participate in ocean exploration. You don't have to be one of these two people. You can be this engineer. You can be the fix-it person. You can be the repair person that's in there, or on the ship, not inside there, but in this situation to help manage the equipment. So there's lots of ways that you can explore, and I invite you all to go explore these research websites from the Nautilus and the Okeanos. Okeanos is spelled with a K, O-K-E-A-N-O-S. Go explore some of their stuff. They're from NOAA, which is a government research organization. They actually explore so many things. Go check them out and ask us more questions if you're a little more curious about the deep ocean. Thanks for joining us on our Aquarium Live today. We'll be back on Monday with some more fun stuff for you to interact with us about, and have a great rest of your week.